Welcome to the Theatre of Others podcast. My name is Adam Marple, and I'm the co-artistic director of the Theatre of Others. With the COVID-19 pandemic forcing a shutdown and reevaluation of space and gathering, we at the Theatre of Others are thinking about what stories we need and how best we can share them. We believe space is psychology, and it informs the way in which an audience interacts and reacts to what is presented to them. We create uniquely theatrical events in bespoke sensory performance spaces crafted to encourage curiosity and grant the audience permission to commune with the play. Now that that space has moved online, how can we encourage interaction and action amongst an audience virtually? The Theatre of Others produces plays that both welcome and challenge the audience. We are committed to international collaboration and are a laboratory that helps artists grow through intensive study of their craft. The Theatre of Others creates a shared community of artists and audiences for the purpose of exploring the most profound issues of our lives and times. We believe the play watches the audience. The audience is necessary, and they are witness to what happens. And you get to be witness to us making that happen. The purpose of this podcast is to open up our process and let you in. We're peeling back the curtain, so to speak, and encouraging you to follow along, to ponder, prod, and question, to join us and criticize us if need be. Being a witness is no passive task, and it requires much from you. Are you up for the journey? On the podcast today from Melbourne, Australia, are co-artistic directors Budi Miller and myself in Cairo, Egypt. This podcast contains explicit language. Hi, Budi.
How you going?
I'm here.
You're here?
I'd say I'm here.
Are
I'm
you
present.
queer?
You better get used to it.
Yeah. Well, I think you are queer. You're a closet queer.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to name you closet queer. How's that? Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to Adam Marple. Ladies and gentlemen, non-binary conforming individuals, we must always make sure that we include the entire community. I'd like to introduce to you our new closet queer, Adam Marple. Yay!
What's up?
Holla! So,
Sure, whatever.
is the world coming to an end?
I have some pretty bad news for you.
Oh, okay. Let's skirt around it for a bit,
Okay.
and then you can give me the bad news. How's that sound?
Okay, sure. Yeah.
Because I've got bad news too.
Oh, okay. Great.
Well, look, I think there's something going on, y'all. There's something going on. My psychic abilities. This is why I look like Lady Cleo today, because I gotta wrap my head.
Call me now.
Call me for your free reading, because my psychic skills, darling, my psychic skills, call me back. I call me and I call you back, are really strong. And so I had to wrap my head to just protect myself, because yesterday I almost got ran over by a car.
I'm sorry.
Actually, it wasn't the car that tried to run me over. It was the motherfucking driver.
Well, right. The cars are not autonomous on their own. They don't have
No,
thoughts or feelings.
in San Francisco they are. But in Sydney, an old white man tried to run me over.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Now, you know it's psychic. You know it's psychic. It was right in front of the Art Gallery of New South Wales, where I'll be performing next month. And I was, crossing the road. It was a small little, service street for the gallery. And this car, tried to run me over, and I just stopped. And you know me. I was like, "Are you trying to run me over?" I got black. I put some black stank on it. Gave him the auntie face, and then he taunted like he was actually going to try to run me over. As I stood there, and I was like, "Oh hell no!" And then as I walked away, he drives by and screams out of the window, "Black."
Oof.
Yes. And I was with First Nations actors, so the three black bodies had a violent assault on them by this old white man. But get this, the Art Gallery in New South Wales, they ain't playing. We got their license plate number, and they have been charged with a hate crime by the museum.
Nice.
Cool, yeah?
Yeah. Better
That's
than
my
Germany.
current administration. It was way better than Germany. But it seems that, whenever you go to a museum space, there are atrocities that just naturally happen to Black bodies.
You mean colonialism and museums go hand in hand? Who would have thought?
Imperialist, white supremacist, capitalist patriarchy, yes, darling, yes, it's still alive and strong, very much so. And then I realized this morning that my talisman, my necklace that was given to me by the Balinese shaman community that I belong to is missing. I don't know where it is, and I don't have much space in this Airbnb I'm staying in, so I don't know where it could have gone. So I have to just ground myself in other ways. So I've got my crystals, got my amethysts, and I'm holding on to them with dear life because I need to stay grounded. And then my I say he's a new friend, and he's a cast member of Gaban, the show that we're doing. He's Time, and a musician, a composer, an amazing composer. He's Japanese, and he checked up on me last night, and he's like, "Okay, so this is what we do in Japan to ground yourself and to protect yourself. Everyone, get your notebooks out. There's two things that you have to do. You get a handkerchief and you fill it with salt, and you put that on your body, and that grounds you. And the way you keep from the energy seeping out of your body, you close your sphincter. Squeeze it up, baby. Ain't no retention. Apparently, this is what the samurai do." Adam, are you still
Heard it here first, folks. You heard it here first.
And let me tell you, it works. It really works. I started with my sphincter because, that's what I have the most control over. And then I wrapped up one of the mini head wrap do-rags that I inherited from my grandmother, and filled it with salt. And because that man, he really attacked and shattered my first and second chakra, my root and my sacral chakra. So I put that salt in my panties and right at my perineum. So I squeezed my sphincter and had the salt at my perineum, and it just completely grounded me. And then you're supposed to, after you wear it all day, you wash it, and then you just do it all day. So I'm gonna be all salted up. I am salted up. I am crystal down. I am prayed up. I am head wrapped, and I'm ready for the world, honey. I am ready, and I'm ready for your bad news.
I'm watching you and listening to you, and I'm thinking how different we are, and how much we are best friends, and how very, very different we are as human beings.
What are you trying to say? If you
I'm
didn't
not trying-
have
I'm
me,
trying to say-
you would have no protection. You would have
I'm
no
trying to
protection if
say-
you didn't have me.
I'm trying to say I love you so much as a human being. How did we ever meet?
It's because you're my metal monkey. Of course we had to
right.
meet.
That's right. Yeah, bad news.
Oh no,
so-
how bad? Wait, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, how bad?
Well, on a scale of 1 to 10, it was 6 years left, right? That was
8 years left.
It was 8 years left. There are no years left. It is too late. The carbon report came out, and we have blown past and are pretty much irrecoverable from this moment. There's not going to be a getting down to. It's going to be about maintaining now. Was the takeaway.
Jesus, save me from your followers. No.
It was a pretty sobering report. Not that anybody thought it was going to be a glowing report, but they weren't really kind of expecting to hear, oh, okay. We are going to shoot past 1.5 degrees. We're not going to. It looks like
survive
now. It looks like we're not going to hit the worst estimates. I mean, it's more than possible that we're not going to hit the worst estimates. But 1.5 degrees is probably more than likely not possible anymore. So now it's about maintaining it below 2 degrees. So between 1.5 and 2 doesn't seem like that's a lot. but it's a whole lot of hell in between those half degrees there. 1.5 is going to be pretty bad, pretty bad, especially for the global south. But 2.2 degrees is literal hell. So I guess that's the silver lining I can take away from that and share with everybody today. I'm very sorry to bring us down.
You won't break my soul. 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 I said, everybody. I'm telling you, I can feel it. I could feel it. Look at me. I am gonna wrap myself in salt today. I'm gonna get
just wear salt all day long. Just get yourself a Missy Elliott trash bag suit of salt and just wear that around everywhere.
I'm gonna be walking around and I'm gonna be like, "Hi everyone." They're like, "What's wrong with Budi?" He's dehydrated from all the salt.
He's dehydrated.
Yeah. What is that smell? Oh, that's the smell of Budi. He's pickling. You won't break my soul. You won't break my soul. Oh my God.
Don't focus on it. Don't focus on it.
Well, this is the thing. Okay, I realized this a few weeks ago. I was like, you know what? Who was I talking to? I think I was talking to Galtney. I was like, it's the end of the world. It's the end of the world. And the good thing that we can think about is we have the privilege of being able to be the last species to witness the Earth. The last American, my God, the last human species. It's America's fault, y'all. It's America's fault. China, America, Indonesia, Russia. Anyway, America's fault. Anyway, we have the privilege of getting to be the last human beings on the planet. And we're best friends on the last day of the Earth.
Yep.
Sorry, Gen Z. Jakina, I'm so sorry, but at least you get to experience it for a little bit.
Yeah, sorry, Jack.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Sorry we're doing this to you.
I'm so sorry. But you know what? We'll have a really good time burning.
We'll have a nice party on the way out.
Well, this is the thing. If any of you get really sad and depressed, this is what you have to sing. It's the end of the world and we know it.
No.
And I feel fine. Just sing about it. Just sing it out. Just sing. Well, I'm telling you, I learned it from my clown training. When things get bad, you just go, oh, nuts. And then you sing about it. It's the end of the world as we know it. You won't break my soul. You won't break my soul. Or if things get really, really good, you say, sweet. You won't break my soul. And you sing about it and you laugh. Ha ha. But you know what? You know what is another really great form of healing and repair and play and enthusiasm?
I think you're about to tell me.
Mime.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Do you know what mime is, Adam Marple?
I think I've heard of it. Elaborate.
I'm going to do a little mime for you right now. I'm looking through my hands. I'm
sure
miming looking through my hands.
Are really enjoying
that's
this
literal.
moment.
That's literal. Miming looking through your hands. That's literal. Okay, I'm going to press my face up against a glass window.
Podcast listeners are really enjoying this moment.
Oh yeah. So that's how I'm gonna get them to come to YouTube. Come to YouTube. Come see. C'est Lady Cleo. Call me. Oh my. Okay. Before we segue, I have to go back to yesterday when you couldn't get on the call. Mm-hmm. What was my solution for if we couldn't have a conversation yesterday? What was my offer?
I don't remember. I wasn't on the call. I don't remember hearing it, so I didn't get to hear it.
I thought you could hear us.
I could get on every once in a while, hear a little bit of something every once in a while, but I didn't.
I was having a long conversation with Jack that I was going to do a solo podcast where I was going to give him a free reading.
Thankfully, this did not get recorded.
Wakanda
Episode did
forever.
not come out. What are you on today? Good Lord.
I am on. This is what happens when I don't have my talismans. I'm not grounded, and I'm telling you, it's the end of the world. We have no years left.
I thought you salted yourself.
I don't have my salt on me right now. Ooh, don't get salty with me, honey. Relax. Take it easy. So mime. Adam.
Yeah, back
have
to
you
the segment.
have you ever seen a mime performance?
In person? No, I don't think I have.
Lies. Acting is mime.
Oh,
You've seen mime. How very
Okay.
dare you?
okay.
Have you ever directed a play where there was no prop?
No, I'm known around the world for my prop-heavy plays. I'm a maximalist. You know this about me.
And have you ever directed a play with no shoes?
I love shoes. It's where I start my design process from the feet up.
Stop
How do you get into
You
a
are
character?
gaslighting our listeners. Stop gaslighting our listeners. You are gaslighting. See, this is what happens. The gas prices go up, and Adam Marple starts gaslighting
Well, I got to do something.
because he can't afford to drive.
It's true.
So why is mime so important, Adam? Why is mime so important for the actor and the theater director and the theater in general?
You're the acting teacher. Why don't you tell us why mime is important?
Why do you keep throwing things out? You know what? I think we should have an expert. We should call a friend. Can we dial a friend?
Okay, we can. You have 30 seconds to unpack mime. For the
I'm
audience. Go.
gonna dial a friend. I think we should call. Hold on a second. Something's coming in. Hold on a second. Something's coming in.
Lord.
Lady Cleo, call me back for my free reading. Call me, ladies and gentlemen, and non-binary conforming individuals. We have a beautiful guest today. So handsome, so smart, so talented, and just an awesome theater person, and amazing curator, and an amazing dramaturg, and just an incredible scholar of the theater profession. We have David Bruin from the Celebration Barn in Maine. Yay! Hi, David.
Hi, Budi and Adam. It's great to be with you and with your sphincters.
Well, thank you very much. It's so good to have the executive artistic director of the Celebration Barn here. I feel so honored to have your presence.
Have you ever had an introduction like that before, David? That
I
great
have-
lead up to that.
No, obviously. But I have given many talks about bodily fluids and defecation and other things. So it felt appropriate in its own
good.
way. So
All right,
there's a really, between the sphincter and the mime, that's really where my work kind of exists, I would say.
Well, as long as you don't feel out of place, that's great.
Well, he actually has his own form of theater. It's called Spime.
Spime, sphincter mime. It's great. Yep. Look it up.
It's where your asshole's doing the most of the acting, yeah.
Oh, I've seen many of that. I've seen many assholes
Yeah,
do a lot of
sure.
acting. So
Well, I did go to the David Geffen School of Drama, so I feel like that's a requirement.
Wait a minute. You did not go to the David Geffen School of Drama. You went to the Yale School of Drama.
that's right.
Yes, at the time it was named for a different capitalist. So I went to the old one. The one that had slaves, not the one that had Nirvana.
Holla. Okay, now, David. See, this is why David is here, because David is invited to the barbecue. All right, come on, David. What do you mean by that? Can you please let people who don't understand what that comment is and how literal that is?
Well, I'm just stating a fact, or alluding to one, which is that Elihu Yale, who was the namesake of the university, which was founded in 1703, was a slave owner, and the slave trade made him rich in a very literal way. I don't think that's very controversial. There's actually a great work of art by a recent artist in the Yale Art Gallery responding to this history on the top floor, which I recommend. But, it's that university has always been a handmaiden to finance capitalism. It was true in 1703, and it's true in 2022. So I know the name change ruffled some people, but I don't know. It didn't bother me in any kind of way. So
Well, so why would the name change ruffle people?
I think people felt like maybe the name was selling out in a certain kind of way, that there was a certain history that had accrued to the Yale School of Drama as opposed to, the school being named after a benefactor. Now, I have to make a side point here, which is that Yale, like many organizations, is, among other things, a way to extract massive amounts of attention. So I feel guilty that I've played into its various extractive mechanisms. I mean, and it can be a good place, which maybe we can talk more about later. But that's all to say, to me, I wasn't really concerned about the name change. Most of the work, as you guys alluded to in your episode 143, The Graduate School Conundrum, most of the really important work, most of the really important and formative work that can happen in a graduate school setting happens despite the institution as much as it does because of it. So good for them for getting the money. And yeah, that's all I'll say about that. Because I would actually like them to hire me at some point if there's an opening. But
David, I think what's beautiful is that you opened it up into something that you do so well, which is the actual dramaturgical side of understanding what's happening on the stage. And you're making me think of I'm already giving a book recommendation. You're making me think of Susan Sontag's book regarding the pain of others, and specifically chapter 2, where she talks about images. And when we co-sign to a image, Yale School of Drama, we don't actually come into contact with what the Yale name brand comes from, how the Yale name brand has come into existence, and we're sitting here and we're fighting for it. We're demanding that it stays. Because it's become this image. It's essentially it's an iconic semiotic thing, like the Pharaoh of Egypt. The brand becomes bigger than the facts of how it even arrived. And this is something that we do in theater when we're looking at archetypes. So thank you for bringing that on board, darling.
Thank you for indulging me. It's like we're 5 minutes into this. I'm already critiquing the university, but I'm sure there's other things to talk about.
Well, we spent an entire episode critiquing universities. It's okay. We're gonna have an entire series where we try to unpack that thing.
Yeah, and have conversations with people that are inside the machine, and also just to kind of make it so that the people that do end up in those places can find a way to feel safe. It's not just to blow it up, but just to support the community. We're theater people. We ain't got no years left, y'all. We gotta lock arms and kumbaya. And eat granola.
Lots of granola.
And wear Birkenstock.
Yep.
So, David, I have a question. Why is mime important in theater?
Well, mime, to me, I'm taking this definition from Dean Evans, who's a really great mime artist, but mime is moving visual poetry, is creating an image and moving from one to the next. And it's both about a kind of capacity for invention and imagination that's embodied, and also a way for the audience to participate in the creation of the theatrical event. Really great mimes are excellent at managing attention in a way that I think actually is enlightening and inspiring, et cetera, as opposed to the way that, let's say, Facebook or Meta or Twitter manage attention, which can be extractive. So in the way that mime manages attention, it's creative, I would say. There's a similar parallel here, by the way, which I think between surveillance, which is watching to control, and dramaturgy, which one definition of that practice is watching to understand. But of course, like mimes are creative, whereas dramaturgs are, administrators in a certain kind of way. But in any case, that's where mime is really important. I think on a practical level, for people who are training, or I think performers, directors, et cetera, mime can really supercharge the rest of your craft. So the best clowns have some kind of mime foundation, because again, they're able to move from image and gesture to the next set of images and gestures. Clown is an obvious one, but even any kind of acting, because as Budi and Adam, but just because I've spent time with Budi, it's like when you're in your body, that's the event. I mean, that's the sine qua non of being in the theater. And it can have all sorts of relations to disembodied or abstracted or other kinds of ephemeral things. But when you're there, that's when you're really creating, whether you're performing Hamlet or whether you're doing a new devised piece or whether you're doing something that, you wouldn't be historically recognized as theater. So mime is really important. And the final thing I'll say about mime is, I like that the invocation of it's kind of backlit by this idea of the mimic, of mimicking something. And the arts we do at Celebration Barn, the place I'm responsible for stewarding, they're really popular art forms. Clown, mime, folk music, even the type of acting we do. These were works that came from the people, as opposed to the symphony or maybe portraiture, things that were elite sanctioned art forms. The mime and the clown, even when they've weaseled their way, weaseled not a good word, even when they've found their way into the Shakespearean stage.
I think it's a fun word.
Yeah, they're sneaky like a fox. They've always been representatives at their best. They've been representatives of the popular will, of the working class, of the peasantry, however historically that has formed. So that's another thing that's very important to me about mime, and why I think it's worthwhile.
Well, I think it's interesting you talk about the working class, and it's a form that is really popular from that part of our community. And so why do you think mime gets a bad rap?
Well, I mean, listen, we've all had bad experiences with mimes. I mean, I'm not, it's like, what, that kind of French style white-faced Marceau mime can be, interesting. And even beautiful. And I saw Marceau, he was great. Or if people watch Les Enfants du Paradis, there's some great work in there, the film. But, it's also kind of creepy sometimes. And the best acting teachers I've seen here at the Barn have been able to tell students sometimes when they're being creepy. But in any case, I think so. So as a codified form, again, I mean, I'm an ambivalent, I'm like, what would be the ambivalent version of a Francophile? I both love France. I'd move there right
Adam
now.
Adam too. Adam's exactly the same way.
Yes.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, you can see how they ruined mime because they made it into this codified thing, just like they nearly ruined tragedy. And
nearly ruined theater, giving us the fourth wall.
I don't know. I'm a little bit of an apologist. Like, to me, the fourth wall and the microphone are just the greatest inventions in nearly human history. But
it is true, though.
But yeah,
true.
Because in any case,
but
so
as
that's
an
why mine
invention,
gets
but not as the only convention.
Yes, not as the only convention, and not to reify certain conventions. I mean, it's just a nice point of resistance now, I think, or that's the way it's used most.
So if you are, I have a question. I have a question for you. And this is a very serious question, David. So put on your very serious thinking cap and open your heart. Is it niche or niche?
Oh, good Lord.
Okay, I'm more interested in process than I am in a final solution. So I actually approve going to the Merriam-Webster dictionary and website and consulting them. So again, I would like, as someone whose theater allows people to explore their process and methodologies and training, I would just say the dictionary is your friend, as is the thesaurus. So,
and what do you say in conversation? What word comes out of your mouth? What pronunciation comes out of your mouth?
I would say niche because I'm from the Midwest, and every sound just kind of moves toward my nasal and has a sort of like in thing. But I'm not, I'm encouraging people to. If I was reading an audiobook, though, I might have the discipline to say the other way.
To say it correctly.
All I have to say is namaste. Namaste.
But yeah.
You heard it from David's mouth, y'all.
You heard it from David's mouth. If you're from the Midwest and you have a lazy mouth, it'll all just make it sound like niche. That's what he said.
I'm from the Midwest. What are you trying to say?
You have a lazy mouth and you pronounce it niche. That's what I just said. I'll say it again if you want me to.
Oh, hell no. Don't. So I want to get back to David because David's way more interesting than your pronunciations, Adam Marple.
Yeah, I agree.
David.
By the way, I'm really glad I heard that portion of the podcast, or else I would be so fucking confused right now.
Yes, exactly. So is the audience who are just picking up the podcast for the first time, going, "What is this podcast about?" I'm sorry.
Okay,
What?
so for the listeners who don't know what we're talking about,
No.
Adam Marple does not know how to pronounce the word niche. She pronounces it as niche, and we have had conversations and arguments over this for several podcasts. Enjoy. All right, so David, tell us about the Celebration Barn. What is the Celebration Barn?
Sure. So it's a theater center in Western Maine, and it was founded 50 years ago by a world-renowned mime named Tony Montanaro. And he created this place. It is actually in a barn, the theater. The barn the current facility was built in 1902, so it's 120 years old. But it was actually, the farm has existed before that. It was the result of a fire. That's why they rebuilt it. But in any case, and it's a place where people can come and train in theater. And we use the term physical theater, which does, I think, as you all have maybe pointed out on other episodes, is a little redundant in the sense that all theater is physical. But there's an emphasis on embodiment, on theatricality, on approaches to work for the stage that do not start from a kind of literary place, that are not interpretive first and foremost, that are creative. And there's this important emphasis on the relationship between performer and audience. So whether we're working with people who are primarily, let's say, actors, so they're going to audition and they want to do roles and things like that, or people who are variety artists, jugglers, magicians, people on stilts. I've seen all sorts of really wild.
How do you get people in
things
stilts?
during my time.
I know it's really high, the barn, but it's not so long to walk.
Well, I mean, people do performances outside as well, because we have,
okay.
The facility is on 11 acres, and so we have spaces for people to perform all kinds of things. And then in addition to the training we offer, I mean, the heart of what we do are these week-long residential workshops. So people arrive here on Sunday, they train Monday through Friday, and then they typically depart on Saturday. And then in addition to those workshops, we have shows, which are in concert, harmonized with the kind of work we do, clown shows, variety acts, kind of things that are very vaudevillian in their orientation. And those happen on Saturday. And then we do have some community-based initiatives, theater in schools, where we take artists to schools, or in the past we had school children come here. And then some other initiatives that I'm trying to build at the moment, especially around immigrants. But it's...
Ooh, can you speak on that? That sounds really interesting.
Sure. One of the things... Well, the first thing to say is just that immigrants have been very important to the barn's history. I mean, they're important to the United States writ large, to the world, et cetera. But in this particular context, I mean, Tony himself was a first-generation American. His parents, didn't have full command of formal English, although they were fantastic communicators from everything I have heard and seen. And so from that beginning, there was a man named Fatah Asma, I think I'm saying his last name correctly, who was a Palestinian who came to the barn. So there always been the circle. And even this year, one of my staff members was from Venezuela. We had another person who was very important to our staff as a contractor and who participated in workshops. She was from Russia. So I think immigration is very important. And Maine is the whitest state in the Union. But nonetheless, immigration plays a very important role, especially as it kind of transitions from an industrial economy based on primarily a male industrial worker who's earning a kind of Fordist family wage to a more service-oriented economy. And the labor in that kind of economy is primarily performed by women, immigrants, women of color in particular. So what I've been trying to get off the ground and have been not as successful Budi called me, I kind of intimated that I'm an expert in mime. I want to be clear that I'm not an expert in mime. I spend most of my time trying to wrangle our budget. I'm an expert in spending money right now. That's really the primary achievement I've had.
Same.
I'm an expert in spending money as well.
Same.
So, my burn rate could match Twitter right now, I'm sure. So I'm really interested in that. I've been inspired by people like Milo Rao, who has a base of operations within a big institution. He's the artistic director of Inti Ghent in Belgium, but he at least every couple years works in. He's worked in Iraq. He's worked in the Amazon. He's worked with workers in Italy. So I'm very inspired by that, and Maine needs more, focus. The institution, again, the institution can manage attention in all kinds of ways, and so I'd like to throw more attention and resources and partner with immigrants in our community here in Western Maine.
I love it. So why do you say you haven't been so successful?
There's a lot of success that has happened. Like, the major success is that the quality of the workshops, I think, is still very high. And part of that is because, I see us as kind of a way station between the larger conservatories and then the eventual exodus that training needs to make from probably those institutions. We are a place where people can experiment. There are some advantages we have as an institution. We can manage certain types of risk better than kind of individuals. We can maintain certain assets in a slightly more cost-effective way. We can bring together different stakeholders, but obviously, as you both have explored, institutions can also become codified. They can become they can work toward the service of their own longevity. So I'm trying to manage those contradictions. That's primarily what I do. I'm a contradiction manager. And,
Ooh,
that's a great
my
title.
God! Do you put that on your resume?
Well, not when I'm trying to raise money. But I don't know if the Mellon Foundation wants to give money to contradiction. That they might be too committed to a certain type of liberalism. But if they're out there, please, we're doing great stuff.
Maybe that's your drag name, Contradiction Manager. Ladies and gentlemen, and non-binary conforming individuals, please welcome to the stage, Contradiction Manager.
I'll just be dressed as like Hegel. It'll be great. Oh man, okay. So that was successful. I mean, I think, Budi, what was great about your time here, for those of you who don't know, Budi led a cohort of people for a week at Celebration Barn at the very beginning of our season when the average temperature was much lower than I wish it was. And, it's a good time to experiment with how do we want to train together, because there's no grades, there's no assignments, there's no, it's just, here is the space. And, we had we had some curveballs administratively, logistically in the beginning. And Julian Elijah Martinez, former guest on the pod, called me and said, do you still want to do this? And I told him, whoever shows up can come here and train. I don't care if it's 2 people. I don't care if it's 8. I'm not interested in anything else. If people want to travel and spend their time here, the door is open. So now in that particular case, we didn't charge money. Like, again, these are the contradictions I'm handling. We do charge a fee. I think the fee is as fair given the economic and historical situation we're in for most of the workshops. But at the same time, like, I'm super moved every time I see everyone gather on Sunday. And I just think these people spent a day getting here, and then they're going to wake up and they're going to start at 10. Well, if you're training with Budi, you start at 8 a.m. But for everyone,
and when did they finish?
Scott's so excited.
When did they finish? You start at 8 and you finish at 9.
But they spend a whole day traveling, and they're going to wake up and train with people they've never met in a place most of them have never been. I mean, that my only the barometer of real success, let's say, is if I can honor that commitment. That's what the staff does here, is try to meet that courage and commitment in kind. It's been less successful if you look at my annual operating budget, although we had a lot of cash on the balance sheet, if any funders are listening out there. So we were taking strategic risks, but like everyone else, we were trying to manage, it was my first year as well. So that presented some challenges just in terms of my ability to predict and assess, certain kinds of fluctuations. And then, we set prices in January, February, and then May came and gas prices shot up, and every single one of my contractors just was like, okay, we're charging 15, 20, 25% more. So that's, not great, but again, that's my job. So manage that kind of thing.
Let's talk about, because I think it's a really great segue into talking about how I think of the Celebration Barn as kind of like, it's the transitional place. Like, you're transitioning to grad school, you're transitioning out of grad school, you're transitioning out of your life working professionally for 20 years, and you need a touch up. Can you talk about your collaboration with Encompass and what they did last year with the potential grad school students and kids?
Yes. So the Encompass Collective, for those of you who don't know, is a collective of actors founded by 4 actors who also teach other actors. And what they were doing was creating a space for artists of color to train, and with an emphasis on people probably at the early stage of their career, although there's a diversity of age in addition to all their kinds. And I saw what they were doing online and was just incredibly inspired and thought, okay, they've done the hard part, which is they have earned the trust and attention of their students. Mm-hmm. And I can do the easy part, which is offer them a space in which they could all meet together and spend time in a way that's very, very difficult to replicate online or even in New York City, where if you're training, you're often arriving there in the morning, leaving in the afternoon, or it's a kind of 1 to 3 hour, 4 hour kind of thing. So here you can not only train, but you can kind of get together in certain kinds of ways. So then we pulled every single financial lever we had to try to make it as accessible as possible. The most students registered, the price they paid to register initially was $450, and then the average dollar amount that anyone paid was $290, and we provided transportation for people coming to and from New York. This is all to say that, you know, as I say to our funders, magic needs material support. So there was a lot of, you know, string pulling and other things to make this thing happen. And then the 3 instructors, Atu Blankston Wood, Sohina Sadhu, and Janelle Chu, just created this great, you know, 5-day program that combined scene study with voice work and with a kind of physical approach. Atu is leading a lot of kind of Grotowski-inspired exercises. And, you know, it was like a mini conservatory. And I think what it showed people was just simply, one, how they could draw on all their resources of performer. So it's not like, okay, when I'm doing Chekhov or when I'm doing Alicia Harris, I'm doing just this thing. But then when I want to do something more experimental, I'm doing this. No, you can bring your full expressive capability to any role.
Yeah.
Now, of course, like the roles that Alicia Harris writes are really, really good, and the roles on Law & Order SVU might not be as good. So that's a limiting factor. But one is like, you know, imagining a kind of abolitionist future. One is like supporting the police state, et cetera, et cetera. But, you know, it was just a great...
But I love SVU. Mariska Hargitay's my girl. Well, I binged on...
It's got its charms.
When I was in Michigan. You know, I was in Michigan for a month. And,
yeah, when you're home with your parents. Yeah, exactly.
And so I was sitting with my grandmother from 10... Yeah, well, from 10 p.m. to 10 a.m., only thing on television is SVU. So Mariska Hargitay babysat me.
Yeah. Judge Judy during the day, SVU at night. Yeah.
Like I said, it certainly has its pleasures. But in any case, I mean, I just thought it was a great way for artists of color who sometimes, you know, want a space away from whiteness, or it's not even away from whiteness, like to mitigate the worst effects. Do you know what I mean? And spaces of affinity and solidarity have always been important to the history of the art form, especially in the modern era, you know, since, you know, 1492, et cetera. I mean, one of my heroes, I think I might have mentioned to you, Budi, at some other point, is Amiri Baraka. And, you know, you can see in that history of him from the 60s, he went from being in Greenwich Village, and he wrote some great plays, The Slave, Dutchman, The Toilet, et cetera. But he found himself at a point where he was like, I don't want to always comport myself toward the white people in Greenwich Village, the audience. I want to make work for my comrades, for my people. And he literally changed his name and moved uptown and then to Newark, New Jersey. But, you know, you can also think about, this will be a very small theater history tangent.
Come on, baby, bring it. This is you are home.
When I was in graduate school, the spine of the MFA program in dramaturgy and dramatic criticism was really this kind of epic of modernist development where symbolism and popular entertainment kind of met, et cetera, et cetera. And I had a professor who said the avant-garde is a marriage of Wagner's Tristan and Isolde and Punch and Judy shows. And I think that's almost right. But I would say, the primary innovation of the 19th century in terms of performance was the spirituals that enslaved people created and the performance practices that those spirituals emerge from. And, it's just incredible. And if for anyone who hasn't read Frederick Douglass's autobiography,
I was just about to say that. Oh my God, David, you're so right. You're so right.
He has a great description of the sorrow songs, as he calls them, that the enslaved sing.
Yes.
And he has this like amazing line. At one moment he says, anyone who is outside the circle wouldn't understand the meaning of those songs.
Yes.
And that to me is kind of like one of the key pillars of the avant-garde. I mean, as much as Wagner or anyone else is what these people create. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. They were creating participatory art forms that broke down the barrier between performer and spectator. They were doing it under the absolutely most heinous conditions of labor imaginable. And they're only, imaginable because people fucking did them.
Yeah.
And what they created changed the world. So in any case, why am I saying that? Just because I see Encompass in that kind of tradition of carving out space and saying, hey, we need to create solidarity. We need to find one another. And the rubric of people of color is worth thinking about, of course. And that is part of the conversation when people are here. And again, kind of like those readers who's Douglas talking to, I have to acknowledge my own standpoint. I feel almost guilty speaking about the Encompass Collective just because I'm not in, if you will. But I'm there to facilitate. Again, I'm there to honor that commitment. And I can see how important it is. And then I can also see, like, how materially we can make this possible. So it was great. And I hope, like, Atu or Sohina or Janelle comes on. Janelle is one of those people who would probably be this is my own thing, Budi, and Janelle's going to like message me and tell me I'm wrong, but she's one of those people like, oh no, I don't want to be on the podcast. And then she would absolutely fucking kill it.
She's going to be amazing. I'm going to bring her. We're going to bring her on because Janelle's amazing. Janelle can also talk about the work because Janelle worked with me just before the Encompass at the Celebration Barn. So there's kind of like a trajectory where I'm doing like a rejuvenation and a teacher's training before that, and then preparing them for the work at the Encompass. So we actually have the dates for that as well, don't we? For when
yes, we do. So
Encompass is going to happen.
Training with Budi will start on June 19th, on Juneteenth, which just happens to kind of coincide, which is great in a certain kind of way. And then the Encompass Collective Retreat will happen
y'all.
the week after that. So people will arrive on the 25th, I believe, and it starts June 26th through that week. So
yeah,
I mean,
so it's happening. So you just go to the Encompass website, the socials, and it'll be in the show notes, and also Celebration Barn will be on the show notes for you to get some more information on it. Because it's important, especially if you're a BIPOC actor and you're looking to be in a community where you don't have to put on the extra performative mask to feel safe in a primarily white institution or a primarily white space. Woo!
Yeah, I think it can be a great training for people who want to audition for grad school, but I think it can also be a great place to learn how to want something other than to be in grad school.
Yeah, exactly. And there were some people that got into grad school. There were several people that did the Encompass preparation that got into grad school. So it's for you to figure out what your intersection is and being in a BIPOC space, a BIPOC actor training space. My goodness, David, there's just so much. I have another question. We're gonna have to bring you back. Will you come back?
People should just come to the Celebration Barn. That's actually what the part 2 should be. I mean, but
yeah, baby.
Or maybe,
well, Theater of Others is going to come to the Celebration Barn, definitely.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll do an on-site recording. That would actually be,
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. But I have this because you've worked with some really exciting playwrights. What was it like working with Jeremy O. Harris?
So, Jeremy is the greatest networker since Andy Warhol, and truly and truly unlike Warhol, one of the most generous people I've met. I just want to briefly say the first time I saw Jeremy perform, because I would say, like, we did work together in a certain way. I actually I made a very bad short documentary film about a play that was being done at the Yale Cabaret. And I hope no one ever sees it again. But I spent a lot of I spent a lot of time with Jeremy. And then I produced a show that was at Antfest at Ars Nova. It's called Xander Zist Dragon 1. That was in the summer of 2017. But I wasn't.
What does that mean?
Xander
Zist Planet 1? What was it?
It was Xander Zist Dragon 1.
What does that mean?
Full title. Well, Xander Zist is the protagonist. And then Dragon was kind of like the avatar that he inhabited. And one, that's a mystery. But I think, for me, it has like Jeremy is very influenced by anime and manga. And so I think maybe the titling convention was a sort of like homage to that art form that played a role in the show. So I'll just say, I was super inspired. Jeremy is kind of fearless in his exploration of history. And he's also just got a very strong sense of style, which I appreciate. And the first time I ever saw him...
Hello.
The first time I ever saw him perform... he was working at a kind of camp in New Haven. This was not Yale affiliated. It was at a place I think it's called Artist Space, downtown New Haven. And somehow he had managed to get himself on the bill that was also showing student work. And these were students, I think that they were college age and people from the community, et cetera. It wasn't like small children, which will become important, disclaimer in a moment. So he's doing his show. And it takes place in a bathroom that you can walk into, and it has a shower. And so I kind of cram in there. There's like 12 of us, and he's sitting on a toilet, and then across from him is a projected screen, and he's reading this kind of poem where he's imagining himself as kind of James Baldwin in a relationship with a white man who he kind of understands as Robert Mapplethorpe, and this very evocative text. Then he gets up, he walks over to the shower stall, he closes the curtain, he takes off all of his clothes, he turns on the water and just starts screaming. He slowly lowers himself into a fetal position, he opens the curtain, asks someone to give him the microphone. At this point, there are 6 of us left. Most of the people who are left seem confused, if not upset. I am riveted. And he starts this monologue, the first line of which was, "His dick tastes like California." And it just went from there. And I remember, calling or going to my partner, her name's Jessie Rasmussen, we were living in New Haven at the time. And I just said, this guy is fucking amazing. And I believed at that moment, I was like, I'm just happy I'm going to get to see Jeremy like work, and this will be interesting. And, never in my wildest dreams did I imagine he would be so successful. I mean, it's hard to argue that he hasn't defied any definition of success. So I'm saying that all to say I feel like I was a witness. I was super impressed. I really cherished the conversations we've had together. I'm working with him now on I'm a juror on a prize that he's administrating and ultimately selecting.
Oh, wonderful.
But,
wonderful.
I just feel like I was there as a spectator and supporter, and I was happy to produce something small, but I wasn't smart enough to get involved with slave play, even though there was definitely a moment where I thought, man, I should really just like drop out of grad school and try to make this happen. I was also working for a Broadway producer at the time, so that was complicated. But in any case, he was awesome, and I can't wait to see him again.
That's amazing. It makes me think of the character in Passing Strange, when he's like, "What's inside is just a lie. What's inside is just a lie." Oh, Jeremy.
I will say, I will say this: if for people at earlier stages in their career who are listening to this, some of a couple of suspicions or just beliefs I had, I feel like Jeremy has confirmed. I mean, he shows up for his peers. I have never met someone who is more committed to making a curtain time. Now, he might not have actually been there on time, but he does, show up. I mean, he is out there making moves. And before he was famous, he got burned by some, pretty well-known people. But he always put himself out there, and he was always enthusiastic about what people were doing. And that included not only people in his immediate circle, but he was going to art gallery openings. I mean, we were going to critiques, to film, to different things. I mean, that was so impressive. Now, at the same time, I encourage people to carve out time to do their own deep work. Especially if you're in New York City, the city can do a lot of your living for you. But showing up for your peers is a huge asset. And I felt that as a young producer in New York when I started saying, it's great to go to the Atlantic, it's great to go to Broadway, but I need to make time. It's a discipline to show up to things that are probably not going to be good, but you're supporting people who are being courageous and taking risk in public. And Jeremy was amazing at that. So,
David, it's so good to have you here. Your insight, your perception is delicious. Did I say that you're invited to the barbecue?
I appreciate that. I do love a good barbecue.
You are invited to the barbecue. You and Adam Marple will be my 2 white men at the barbecue.
Thanks.
My 2 white cis heterosexual males at the barbecue. Well, no, Adam's queer now, so. I think this is the perfect time for our provocations. Let's take a break because David is on fire, y'all. And David, please do not edit yourself. If you want to drop the mic, you can drop the mic.
If you want to curl up in a fetal position in a shower and scream, you can do that too.
What's inside is just a lie.
I'll spare people my own sphincter acting. So,
oh my God,
we'll return with provocations.
My sphincter tastes like California.
Demonetized.
We got money. Okay, I think, ladies and gentlemen, and non-binary informing non-binary conforming individuals, it's time for you to listen to the stereo sounds of JDB, Jack David Burmester. Jakina, I'm telling you, Jakina's on some other sauce. That was amazing. That was really, really amazing. Really beautiful. The harp? The harp? Who got the harp?
The glass harmonica? I haven't heard a glass harmonica in a long time. Thank you for bringing that back, Jack.
Oh, Jakina,
and a kazoo in the background, too, just randomly.
Amazing. As a lullaby? Oh, my God. Amazing.
Yeah.
So we are at Provocations. Adam, can you take over and give David a little 411 on what a provocation is?
So 411 on what a provocation is. We want to leave the audience. They're on fire. They're hearing these things. They're inspired by what you're talking about. What should they do? Where should they go? What should they read? What should they see? How should they prepare themselves with this fire to do something? Is there a question you'd like to leave them with? Is there something to provoke them to go and do?
Well, I want to shout out a group called Anti-Capitalism for Artists.
Ooh.
It's a
Colton's
kind of grassroots.
Love that.
A kind of grassroots organized study group that has courses and other events online, and hopefully they'll do some more things in person. I know they had an event earlier in September that I wasn't able to make, but it was kind of instigated by Chris Myers, who's a really wonderful performer. And they study the ways in which racial capitalism operates and look at kind of foundational texts from Cedric Robinson or even Jose Doug, et cetera, just trying to look at how people have confronted the labor conditions and the historical situation in which they're in. And I think they just bring a really great commitment to a kind of analysis that's often, obscured or overlooked in kind of more traditional diversity, equity, inclusion style workshops. And I just love people getting together and studying. I think studying is incredibly important. And again, studying can be one of the hardest things to do in a university setting. So people making an exodus from university is good.
That's a good one, David. That's so true. They
well-
overwork us and give us no time to study.
Indeed. And there's so much to say. And so checking them out is really great. And then, okay, I'll leave you guys with a provocation I'm actually thinking about. And I do actually really like anti-capitalism for artists. But
you hear that, Goldman?
I hope
David loves you too.
I hope we've got a little time here. Let me
We got time, baby. Bring it.
There was a kind of movement called Strike MoMA that happened in 2021. And this was a kind of coalition of different groups that united under this banner, kind of against MoMA after some revelations came out that their board chair at the time, Leon Black, had financial and personal ties to Jeffrey Epstein. And even though Black resigned very quickly after the formation of the group, among other pressures, they had this kind of 9-week series of demonstrations and teachings, et cetera. And it was really to try to imagine what they called a post-MoMA future. And to me, it was really to put into practice what it would mean to not assume that the institution is justified. What would it mean to think about the ways in which, those kinds of institutions are entangled in certain forms of exploitation, extraction, et cetera. And there was a panel with a number of amazing people on it, including Fred Moten and Stefano Harney, who are cultural theorists and poets and writers. They wrote this really great book called The Undercommons, as thinking about how people could study outside the university. I highly recommend it. But the thing I think about all the time is that Stefano Harney, at this talk, it was a panel. I think if you just Google Strike MoMA Harney, Harney, or Moten, Moten, you can find it. And he said, let's think for a moment about why they keep artworks in museums. And he outlined...
Come on.
I'm parodying this, but he outlined a couple reasons. One is that they're securitizing it, right? They're, quote unquote, keeping it safe. They're treating it as a financial security. The second is that they're charging rent on it. So every time you go to MoMA and see Starry Night, you're paying a little bit of rent to MoMA. Or when you go to Broadway to see Hamilton, you're paying a kind of rent to see the show. But the thing that I keep thinking about is, he said, the real reason they keep them in museums is to perpetuate the belief that there is such a thing as a work of art, that there's this individualized thing that you can go and see that is completely divorced and extracted from the content and context in which it was created. And, the reason I think about that is because I think it points to this bigger... Sorry, I'm really going on a tangent here. But,
Keep on going. Come on. I'm with you. We're with you.
The reason I often think about that is because sometimes the way theaters think of themselves is that they are going into communities and they're offering something that these communities need that they don't have. And I really reject that basic premise. Because the people who are in, let's for example say Rikers Island, don't need your production of Hamlet. They don't need your shit, period. And in fact, you, the institution, actually need them. And I think, if we can recalibrate how we think about art as this thing that we're bringing to people and not as this thing that is already existing and going on, as this thing that's out there in social life, in practice, I think that would do a lot of good for institutions to think of themselves as, a source of, in some sense, that they are the ones endangering the already ongoing work.
Come on now, David. Come on.
And so our task then is to reckon. Now, again, they can do good things. That's the kind of, tension of where I sit, at least as an institutional leader, is that we can carve out space in ways. We can, create places in which people can experiment and live otherwise. But we have to be clear about what it is that we're doing and the value that we're providing and the people who we seek to serve. So I feel like I muddled that a little bit, but
No,
his
you didn't.
provocation about, that we're perpetuating the belief that there is such a thing as a work of art. I think about it all the time. And if people seek that out, please hit me up and let me know what you think. I didn't do it justice, but
No, but that's
it's
great
okay.
because
There's still time.
It's brilliant because Camille Paglia, she says in a very clear sentence, men created art. And what she was trying to say is men created art because they couldn't create themselves. So art is an institution. It's a cis white male heteronormative institution. That art being art is actually another way to identify what has value and what doesn't have value, and what ways we can put violence on communities, and what communities actually are being instituted as the dominant community. So when you look at what I'm doing right now in Sydney with the play Gabon, where it's all about the repatriatage of community objects, cultural artifacts, and actual body parts, from museums and sending them back to the communities where they come from. It's like what you're saying is right on par with that, and that's where the world is turning to. So you were really clear, David.
Yes, and I think, one thing, I do think institutional leaders, producers, people who are responsible for managing risk and resources in some kind of way, they should be front-footed. They should lead. They should take initiative. But they should not think that they are bringing something to people who have a deficit of that thing in their life. And in fact, their real role might be as a place to receive, to invite in, and to see what happens. I mean, that's why I wanted to emphasize that what I saw Encompass doing, they did the hard work. They earned the trust and attention of the people they were seeking to serve. And I was simply here to provide a context in which that could take place as best as I possibly could. But it wasn't like, oh, these people need me. They don't need shit.
Just give a space.
Oftentimes, working people, what Sly and the Family Stone called everyday people, what they need is for the powers that be to leave them the fuck alone.
Hallelujah.
But, institutions like the Celebration Barn in its, highest aspirations can at least be a place where if we're not leaving people alone, we're trying to preserve and receive and find ways to protect things that are otherwise in danger. So that's my, spiel about that. And I'm building
And
on
that
the
is
thinking
a
of other
delicious
people, so-
provocation. David, those provocations, Adam, I don't think we should give provocations. I think David just dropped the mic.
Exactly.
He just dropped.
Well, I appreciate that. I just want to say finally, I've been very inspired by both of your own provocations and really excited to discover the podcast along with discovering Budi, which is quite the moment in anyone's life. I'll just say one final thing about Budi, which was he came in and the first morning he prepares the space. I don't want to say too much about it because it's really just a beautiful thing and so wonderful for everyone. And it invites the spirits in. And if they show up, they show up. But at least you've prepared the way. But I had my managing director at the time who was doing her job. I want to be clear and said, I think Budi is lighting incense. Should we allow that with, various fire? I mean, we're in a big wooden barn. I mean, and I said, Budi just flew halfway around the world to be here. He can light whatever he wants. So that was definitely just a moment I'll never forget.
Like
I didn't say it
said,
in anger. I want to be clear, but
I come with my crystals. I come with my magic.
and yeah, Adam, I hope we have the opportunity to meet each other co-present, kind of in real space because I've enjoyed listening to you and yeah, your ability to steer the ship is quite impressive.
Thank you. To see how different Budi and I are. He comes with his crystals. I come with a broom.
Oh, it's truly amazing. And I think I even told I shouldn't say this probably, but I even told Budi. He said something. Budi said something like, "My best friend is white," and I was kind of like, "Adam's white."
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Wow, you have.
I don't know what I thought. I mean, I don't want to put a value judgment on anything like that. It's just like I was like, "Oh, interesting."
Oh, you hang out with white people. Weird.
Yes, I have
No,
a
it's
few
just-
white people that I like.
Yeah.
See, not all cis white men are crazy.
Not all of.
No. Okay, sorry, I'm doing another provocation, but the worst thing you can do is that cis white man is think that you're special. Is think that somehow, well, my classroom is decolonial. It's like, no. I mean, I'm glad you're doing the work that you are doing, person out there, but it's like, that's the thing. It's not about you. That's the real thing. That's very tough for people like me who occupy various vectors of privilege to understand. It's not fucking about you. So, but anyways, Adam, it's been, really great to connect. And I always look forward to the pod.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
So,
very
Adam,
much. Yes.
how can we get people to? How do we even know that they listen to David and actually are doing his provocations?
What they're going to do, they're going to go to speakpipe.com/theater of others. Again, speakpipe.com/theater of others. Theater of others, all one word, theater with an R-E. You can leave a 90-second voice message on there. We haven't had any listeners give us anything in quite a while, have we, Budi? It's been
We haven't had any questions in a while. Hello, where are you?
Crazy.
Yoo-hoo.
Well, maybe they just don't want to have their voices heard on the podcast, but they can go to podcast@theaterofothers, leave us an email.
Yes.
And if you're Gen Zer inclined and you want to do it on Instagram, Facebook, or our website
You're on the
instead.
gram, y'all. And there ain't no more years left, so
what are you waiting
use
for?
the technology.
Exactly. These questions, get them out there, get them to us. We love and miss your questions. It's been a while since we've had a question, and
We do.
and we miss them. But the only way you're going to know what our next episode is going to be about, and the next episode about that, is if you do what, Budi?
Subscribe. You got to subscribe, y'all. You got to get in the conversation. I mean, look at the amazing people we're bringing on here. We have more beautiful people coming as well. David is incredible. Like the wealth of knowledge that he brings and the passion that he brings. I mean, don't you want to have David in your inbox?
That's right. Yeah.
And if you have to do what my Uber driver does, is you have to give us 5 star. You give me 5 star, I give you 5 star. And if you really like us, give us a comment. Leave us a comment. Hey, David, have you left us a comment?
I don't think so. I probably
Leave
should.
us a comment.
I've left one in my heart, but I'll
Leave us
put
a
it out into the world.
comment. Share the love. Leave us a comment, because those comments really do have value in the podcast space, and we want to make sure that we get to as many people as possible.
When you
I think your 5-star situation sounded a little different than my 5-star interactions, but all good. Teach their own.
What kind of 5-star interactions do you have?
I don't. Maybe I'm just not used to hearing the musicality of your voice, but it seemed like there was a lot inferred.
It came out of this one time I got out of the Uber car, and this Uber driver was so desperate. He was like, 5 star, you give me 5 star, 5 star. You give me 5 star, yeah, 5 star. I was like, yeah, baby, I'll give you 5 stars. You give me 5 stars?
I'm at a 3.9 right now. I'm at a 3.9. Can you give me a 5 star to bump me up? I'm at a 3.9. I'm not getting any work.
It's serious business. David, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for coming on.
I mean,
thank you,
our
guys.
listeners are just going to eat this up. This was a huge well of information and a conversation that still needs to be had, especially since we don't have any years left. So, it's that existential creativity that we all have to get on board and kill the capitalist dream. And Adam, I love you.
I love you
Oh my
too.
God. I'm on the air with 2 white men that I love. This is wonderful. It's a good day. After having an old white man scream at me yesterday, I just bring my white men on the podcast and heal me with my stones. You're healing me. You're healing me.
Yep.
Namaste, my brothers. Namaste. And for the rest of y'all, we'll be back next week. Bye.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Theater Brothers podcast. Make sure to visit our website, theaterbrothers.org, where you can subscribe to the show in iTunes, Stitcher, or via RSS, so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes. Or if you'd simply tell a friend about the show, that would help us out too. A special thank you to Purple Planet for the music you've heard. The Theater Brothers creates a shared community of artists and audiences for the purposes of exploring the most profound issues of our lives and times. We believe the play watches the audience. The audience is necessary, and they are witness to what happens. And you get to be witness to us making that happen. The purpose of this podcast is to open up our process and let you in. We're peeling back the curtain, so to speak, and encouraging you to follow along, to ponder, prod, and question, to join us and criticize us if need be. Being a witness is no passive task and requires much from you. Are you up for the journey? Be sure to tune in next week for our next journey.